There's a secret war going on in the mines, and we may have just ended it, but that definitely doesn't mean things are going to be any better for us. So all you need to do is sit back and relax, because I've got about 10 theories on the war between Seek and the Grumbles. Doors floor 2 starts exactly where it should, because that elevator we took at the end of floor 1 didn't take us up into floor 2, it took us down into a mine shaft. But there's more to that underground network of caves that we can assume is underneath the hotel. It kind of feels like it gives us the origin story for some of the entities we see in the hotel, and potentially the origin stories of some of the entities we're going to see in future chapters. But one of the first things you notice when you enter the mines are 2 entities in particular: a significantly higher frequency of a certain screech that we saw in the hotel, and something that looks starkly like a screech called a Giggle. Giggle seems to be an organic looking creature or animal that spawns on the ceilings of the mines, and once you get close enough they drop down and latch onto your face like a head crab from Half-Life. But many people notice the similarity in their appearance with screeches, most notably in their mouth. They have the exact same mouth and teeth, but there are many differences as well. Obviously one of them is completely covered in goo and has 6 arms, where the other only has 4 tentacles. Also, a Giggle has more eyes than the 2 that the screech has, but I don't think they're just some long lost cousins. I truly theorize they are the same thing, but just at different points in time and after a certain event happens to them. But before I tell you about that event, I gotta talk about their true factual siblings, the Grumbles. The first serious event that happens in the mines is at room 140. Our long lost buddy from floor 1, Seek, appears to chase us again. This ends at room 149, but a new foe appears to take us on: the Grumbles of the nest of room 150. Grumbles are a large organic looking monster that burrow through the ground. This ability to burrow allows them to create mine corridors of their own. What allows them to do that is their massive 8 tentacles that acts like a burrowing machine. So what's clear is that they evolved in the underground mines. This is their home, and the nest is the center of their home, which is symbolized by the appearance of the Queen Grumble. Now, without a doubt, there's no argument that a Giggle and a Grumble come from the same family, but upon maturing, the Giggle grows more tentacles and grows in size. And since we only see Grumbles in the nest, it's clear that once they reach this size, they gotta get to work and go do their main job, which is patrolling the nest to protect the Queen. The only difference in appearance between a Queen Grumble and the patrolling Grumbles is that the Queen has a massive scar on its head. It is also slightly bigger than the other Grumbles and more aggressive. So who's really protecting who? But anyway, this seems to be inspired from like a queen bee type of thing, which means the Queen Grumble probably gives birth to all of the Giggles. But this is where things seem to get weird. Before we get to the nest, there's a big chase scene with Seek, and it conveniently stops right before the nest. Almost like that's the limit of where his power can reign supreme. And the only 2 major boss experiences during the mines is with Seek and or the Grumbles. Clearly they're the 2 superpowers of the mines, but they make sure not to cross. But with that being said, it seems as though they have crossed in the past. It kind of feels like screeches are just Giggles that have been corrupted by Seek's goo. This is most likely an attempt by Seek to lower the number of Giggles that can turn into Grumbles in the future, because as we know, Seek does not enter the nest where the Grumbles reside. So he makes sure to corrupt them when they're young before they've matured. You heard it here first, Seek is a groomer, but I can already hear the argument in the comments. What about the number of tentacles? 2 reasons why this could work. First of all, we know that Giggles in their nature are destined to grow more tentacles when they become a Grumble. After the corruption process, it's possible that they just grow more tentacles but retain their size because of the corruption, because they only gain 2 more and not 4 more like they are destined to when they become a Grumble. But a more likely theory is that they're just using Seek goo. Seek has proven that he can manifest his goo into any form he wants, including more appendages like arms. So I don't think it would be too hard for it to turn into some more tentacles. That's the base level of this war. Seek is trying to control the growing numbers of the opposition, and that might be exactly why we only see 5 Grumbles in the nest. Seek seems to be doing a pretty damn good job of reducing those numbers. But it goes the other way as well. Littered throughout the entire nest is large piles of dead screeches. It seems when they die in groups, the goo of the screeches coagulates and turns them into piles. But why are there so many? I believe once a Seek corrupts a Giggle and becomes one of his minions, they are completely and fully under his control. And as we know, Seek doesn't like entering the nest himself. So what does he do instead? Send his army of screeches right into the nest. He keeps himself out of harm's way and also sends his minions into the core of their home, the nest. But I don't think any number of screeches can take on a single Grumble. This explains all of the dead screeches in the entire nest, but no dead Grumbles. And this also explains another thing, why Seek is so hell-bent on not letting a single Giggle mature, because the Grumble will become too strong. So that's part 2 of this war. The stronghold of the Grumbles is impenetrable by the Seek and Screech army, but the outer areas of the mines are also controlled by Seek and not the Giggles. It's a turf war stalemate. But this takes me on to the last part of the theory, how our involvement completely tips over the balance of this war. I've got a feeling we're one of the few things that has ever escaped the nest alive. It seems as though no Screech has ever left alive, and probably Seek has never gone in either. This resulted in a perpetual chase from the Queen Grumble herself, the one that's in charge of the nest and responsible for keeping the rest of her colony safe. Spoilers ahead, everybody. Once we reach the final point in this level, we realize that the Queen Grumble never stopped chasing us. She was always on our tail. We were a loose end that she could not afford to let live, and so she broke the Grumble's cardinal rule, leaving the nest. By her leaving the nest, she left herself vulnerable. No one could watch her back, and none of the patrolling Grumbles were there either. The only other time we saw a form of a Grumble outside of the nest were the Giggles, and we know they got corrupted straight away by the elusive and powerful Seek. And this is where the story gets kind of sad. Seek completely engulfs the Queen Grumble, giving us the exact play-by-play on how he corrupts other entities, and also showing us probably how the Queen got that scar on her face in the first place. They definitely would have clashed in the past, and once their formidable power was understood by one another, they understood the boundaries of where they can go, resulting in the stalemate that we first saw when we entered the mines and the nest. But now we broke that boundary, and the Queen is no more. So what will this result in? Sadly, no more Giggles will be born. Until another Grumble turns into a queen, they won't have that ability. And if they never find their queen, the Grumbles will have no reason to stay in the nest. They will continue patrolling the rest of the mines and potentially leaving themselves vulnerable as well, giving Seek the opening that he wants so that he can take out their entire force. So is the Queen dead? Hell no. Seek has had the most screen time out of any entity during this entire game. You best believe he's gonna have that screen time again. But understanding what happens to the Queen, we have to understand the intentions behind why they were at war in the first place. I don't think this was just a turf war. I think the Grumbles are native to the mines. You can tell by their anatomy and the way that they mature and grow over time. It allows them to traverse the mines naturally, and we don't even see them in the main hotel because they're in their natural home. So their reason for fighting in this war is so that they can protect their home, whereas Seek on the other hand might have different intentions. I think Seek is literally seeking all-out power, and in that journey that's when he came across the Queen Grumble, a naturally organic formidable force. Once he realized that the corrupted Giggles wouldn't grow up into the Grumbles that he wants to use, he found a new mission: corrupt the biggest and most matured Grumble, the Queen herself. And once corrupted, he will control her, resulting in the Queen Screech, an entity that has power beyond our belief. Its destructive power will be on another level. And with that being said, theory over. I'm hella excited for the next chapter, and you should be too. And if you guys want to hear me talk more smack about theories and what's gonna happen, you know what you gotta do. You have to subscribe. MatPat's gone. I'm like the new degenerate MatPat. So join the journey, join the gang, and don't let Seek corrupt you.